Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh, shit.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast. Tonight, we're going to be talking some Kirk Cousins drama. I feel like everybody and their mother knows the Falcons have to either move on or have the most expensive backup of all time. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about rookie running backs. They're going to make an impact in year one. And we have got a ton of other topics to talk about. And of course, we're going to end it off with the chat. America is football.
America is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass on the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my God.
No.
You loved it.
30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. I'm Colin, that's Rick.
Let's go.
And as Rick said, we're going to be talking about Kirk Cousins, and we're going to just get right into it because this Kirk Cousins thing last year was a lot different. They drafted Michael Penix Jr. to be the rookie, to learn from Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins was such a great quarterback in Minnesota. And then before that, he was a great quarterback for the Commanders, the Washington football team. He was always kind of like, I think, that guy that kept getting franchise tagged. And I remember like 7 years went by and it was like, do you know who's made the most money being quarterback in the NFL over the last 5 to 10 years? And it was Kirk Cousins. And that was the guy that never signed a long-term contract. So every year he was just getting a bunch of money, but it was still like that quarterback that nobody ever wanted to fully commit to and say, you're going to be our franchise, like the Mahomes, the Josh Allen. It was kind of like the Jay Cutler feeling. Like, is there anybody better than him available? I don't know. Probably not.
Really.
We could definitely go worse. Do we desire somebody better? Of course. I mean, every team that doesn't have those top 5 quarterbacks wants something better, especially if you're not, Bo Nix and Caleb Williams age. If you're, in your 30s and you're still leaving something to be desired, and we are confident that you've hit your ceiling, then you kind of go into this weird zone where Kirk Cousins spent his entire career. And then finally there's a team, the Atlanta Falcons, who is like, you know what, we're going to pay you a bunch of money. We value what you've done. Looking at, from a holistic point of view at your entire career, you're somebody that we think we could win a Super Bowl with in the next 2 years. And Kirk Cousins had his worst season ever. And they drafted Michael Penix Jr. to be a mentor or a mentee and just kind of like, hey, this is how a pro football quarterback, plays, and this is how he preps his body. none of it went according to plan because, like Aaron Rodgers, he was coming off an Achilles injury, and we have gotten so used to thinking like people just come back from these injuries and like the
No.
perfectly healthy young players don't come back from torn Achilles. Look at Saquon Barkley. He tore
Yeah.
his Achilles at like 22 years old. 23 years old, he had such a mediocre season that everyone forgot about him. Look where he's at now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Super Bowl champ.
and he's like on top of the position for the entire league. He's the face
Mm-hmm.
of Madden. He's the face of the NFL, arguably. And it just shows you how much can change in 1 year. But Kirk Cousins having that down year, which I felt like was to be expected because of the severity of the injury and his age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Michael Penix Jr. got to see the field, and now they're giving him the keys to the franchise. And it's kind of something where the Falcons can't really walk this one back. And it's interesting with Kirk Cousins because he was playing at a higher, it's very similar to Aaron Rodgers. It's like there are two quarterbacks that, yes, they're past their prime, but
Mm-hmm.
was last year the best football that we're going to see out of the two quarterbacks? I'm not convinced for either quarterback that last year was kind of their new ceiling. I think
Ooh.
that they are both capable of playing at a higher level. For Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be with the Steelers. We'll talk about that later. But for Kirk Cousins, what do you do with the guy? Because, like you said in the intro, he's either going to be the most expensive backup,
Mm-hmm.
and how rare is it for something like that to actually work out for the
Yeah.
team? The one thing I like about that is that he becomes an insurance policy for Michael Penix. If you throw Penix out there and it's week 8 and you're 3-4 and
Mm-hmm.
you want to try something different,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like the idea of throwing Kirk Cousins out there and seeing if he, if it was just the injury. On the other hand, I feel like it's not right to hold somebody hostage if there's another team that's like, dude, you could come be our franchise quarterback today and be the face of the team. And this kind of stories just fall into the wayside. And I feel like it's worth bringing up as we go into mandatory OTAs and
Mm-hmm.
preseason's just around the corner. So what do you make of this whole situation?
It's a tough one because we go back to the draft last year, right? And we think, okay, Penix is still on the board at 6 or whatever it was that he got picked at by the Falcons, whatever pick the Falcons had. Nobody thought they were going to go Penix, a left-handed quarterback. They go Penix. The owner is even talking to the GM and being like, what did we just do? Right? So even the owner wasn't really in the loop, I guess I would say, about, any decision to go with Penix. And like you said, we start the season with the Falcons. They have some ridiculous games. Kirk Cousins is throwing for 450 yards, 6 touchdowns, yada, yada, yada. But then you start to see his age. You start to see the injury really come into play. Penix takes over the last 3 or 4 games, and he was there earlier in the season. And then you start to wonder, are the Falcons really about to have the most expensive backup quarterback backing up a rookie? Or in this case, coming up in the 2025 season, a second-year quarterback? Like, is that really what's about to happen? In my mind, I have to go with Penix. If I'm the Falcons, I have to go. I know you said you're not convinced that what happened last year with Penix is probably the new ceiling. I kind of am, man. I personally, I think that is not the best Kirk we're going to get, but I don't think it's going to get any better than that. I really do think like Kirk.
Wait, so you said you're not convinced it's his new ceiling, but it might not be the best Kirk Cousins we've seen, but it's probably not going to be much better than that. I'm confused. Like, do you think he's going to play better this year? or worse this year?
I don't even know if he's going to start. That's the thing. Like, Kirk Cousins has always been a quarterback that you compared him to Jay Cutler, right? Like, he's got an arm. He can get touchdowns. He can get yards, but he can never, ever take your team to a Super Bowl. He can't. He hasn't proven it. His age, his ability now, it's just not a Super Bowl type. He's not a Stafford. He's not that guy. He had games last year where, again, he had 450 yards, a ton of touchdowns, and it seemed like, all right, Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, this is going to work. The $100 million guaranteed they gave him over 4 years, this is going to work. But after the injury, after he lost his job to Penix, and all this stuff going on now, what do you do with the guy? I mean, Kirk Cousins has showed up to OTAs or whatever it was last week. I believe it was OTAs or minicamp, whatever it was. We know Kirk Cousins is a nice guy and he's going to do what he needs to do. But I don't know if there's a team that is going to take a shot with him now, knowing that he's not the same Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. He's not the same Kirk Cousins that said, "You like that," to a bunch of reporters when he was in Washington. He's not. He couldn't take the Vikings to pass the first round, I believe. He had a mediocre season as a team with the Falcons last year. Statistically, he's a really good quarterback. Like you said, he's made a lot of money over the last decade, but he's just not the guy, man. And it sucks because Kirk Cousins doesn't want to be a backup. We know he doesn't. We know that he thinks in his head, just like Aaron Rodgers, just like a lot of these guys out there, quarterback-wise, who are a little bit older, I'm a starter, and yeah, I haven't really been to the big game, in Kirk Cousins' case at least, but I don't want to be a backup. But at the end of the day, Kirk Cousins is going to be a backup and a mentor, kind of how you said, to Penix. Or it's so funny that Nick commented this, but where was it? JJ McCarthy. Kirk to Vikings as a backup weirdly does make sense. And it weirdly does. It weirdly does make sense.
Not going to happen, no.
It's not going to happen, but I don't see Kirk Cousins surpassing the season he had last year.
I was going to say it's kind of tough because we're at that point in the season where everybody has their quarterback plan figured out. And I think the most likely thing to occur is for a team's quarterback to go down. And then at that point, Atlanta will get max value from Kirk Cousins to whichever team is trying to salvage their season. This is the other plan Aaron Rodgers could have taken had he not signed with the Steelers. And other quarterbacks do this. Joe Flacco did it. This is like that age group where you're like, all right, I'm not going to OTAs. I'm not going to, do the pony show. Just call me when you guys need help. You're down 7 in a clinch playoff game, and I'll be there. And good old Joe Flacco rolls up and takes you to the postseason for one more nostalgic run. But I think the best thing for Kirk Cousins to do at this point is to outperform Michael Penix, because I believe that there is something left in Kirk Cousins. And if Kirk Cousins feels that way too, he has to go prove it. You got to go out there and make the most of the reps you get. And when the preseason rolls around the corner, make it obvious that you are that much better than Michael Penix. Because if it's even like Michael Penix is just a little bit worse, they're going to go with him because of the upside, and he needs the reps to improve and to grow. But if it's like how the Seattle Seahawks paid, I think, Matt Flynn $100 million, and then they drafted Russ in the 3rd round thinking he would be a backup, and then they're like, fuck, we got to start this guy.
Yeah.
Or Dak Prescott to Tony Romo. Make it obvious that if they don't roll with you, they're making a huge mistake. That's the best way for Kirk Cousins to see the field again. And similar things happen to players like Drew Brees, where they got injured and they thought, my career's pretty much over. They came back, had a bad season, and there was a coach that believed in him. For Drew Brees, it was Sean Payton.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you're still that guy. And
Mm-hmm.
Drew talks about it now where it took him a while to believe in himself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if I could still be that guy, but once I had that coach that believed in me, I was able to believe in myself, and I was able to be that guy again. So
Yeah.
for the difference for Drew Brees is that it happened really early in his playing career, and Sean was able to not only restore his confidence but make him a Super Bowl MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins at the latter half of his career, but he just needs to make it obvious that he's. And I feel like it's an okay pivot because Michael Penix is still very young.
Yeah.
I mean, those last quarterbacks were older than normal because of the COVID season.
Yeah.
So they're not that young, but
Mm-hmm.
who cares? Like, it's just one more year. The worst thing that could happen is he continues to develop and grow like Jordan Love did with Aaron Rodgers. So I think that's the best way for him to see the field. I wanted to kind of roll into another player that
Mm-hmm.
has a shaky situation with his franchise. And we've talked about it before, but it's Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
We're hearing rumors being floated around that he could be a trade candidate. He could potentially be cut.
Mm-hmm.
Teams can free up cap space by post-June. These are the moves that could really shake up some rosters, and there might be some teams out there that could benefit from having a Tyreek Hill. I've said it for a while, but Tyreek Hill going back to Kansas City makes a ton of sense to me. I don't know which teams would be in the market for a Tyreek Hill because
Mm-hmm.
of his price tag and his age.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like another major domino, wouldn't you say?
I I would definitely say that. Now you're saying Kansas City. He's 31, and I believe he's going to be okay. So he just turned 31 in March, so he's officially in his 30s. You saying Kansas City makes sense because Rashee Rice, that is still going on. They have Xavier Worthy, but the Rashee Rice suspension, or at least build up to what his suspension will be, is going to hit them. It's going to hit them. It's going to hit Kansas City. That's their number one guy. Xavier Worthy had an amazing Super Bowl, which, they lost. So it's kind of, one of those things where you're like, oh, he did. But bringing in Tyreek Hill, hey, to me, it makes sense for both parties. Kansas City gets a number one, and Tyreek Hill has another legitimate chance at actually winning a Super Bowl. Now, other teams, you've got to just look at who were the playoff teams last year. The Rams. Could the Rams use someone like him, right? They've got Nakua, but they got rid of Cooper Kupp. Could they use another 31-year-old really, really fast receiver and have Puka Nakua be their kind of route runner, sure hands type of guy? And Tyreek can be one of those guys where it's like he's just going to run straight to the end zone, and he's going to have the safety and a cornerback on him, frees up
So it'd be
everybody else.
Puka, Nakua, Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, yeah. I mean, something like that, right?
I mean, that's like...
It's a lot.
That's the best receiving core in the NFL.
It very well may be. And again, you look at other playoff teams last year. I know the Commanders just got Debo, but they're having an issue with Scary Terry. He wants to have a huge contract. I don't know. I highly doubt this is going to happen, but shit, the GM there and the owner there in Washington, they've got money to spend. Could they swing a deal with Tyreek? Possibly. But I'm just kind of looking at other playoff teams, right? The Steelers, they just got rid of what's his name? Oh my God, they just got rid of one of their receivers, trading him.
Pickens.
George Pickens. They brought in DK, but they got rid of George Pickens. Like, how much of that other wide receiver room can they really count on, right? And is quarterback's going to be Aaron Rodgers? I'm sure he'd like, to have a Tyreek Hill. So I think you have to look at a lot of playoff teams.
I was going to throw the Jags in there too. If you could have
possibly
and in my thinking, like, it would be very similar to the Bears. Like, okay, last year you had the Eberflus thing, so we're going to throw it away. But if you could give Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, Tyreek Hill lined up on the same, and Travis, if he can't figure it out, I'm talking about Lawrence, if he can't figure out how to take that team to, 25 points a game and 10 wins with that receiving core, then maybe he isn't the guy. And we'll talk about that later. But I think when you have those situations with those quarterbacks where you're like, we paid him a ton of money and we're not really sure why we haven't seen more success, make all of the excuses invisible. Just what are his excuses? He doesn't have a line, get him a line. He doesn't have a receiving core, get him a core, get him a tight end. Whatever he wants, we need to be able to hold him accountable without having the asterisks of whatever excuse comes along with it, because we know the great quarterbacks overcome, but they don't usually overcome until they get that confidence in them. And that has to come first. So
and with a Tyreek Hill, that can come a lot quicker with a wide receiver of that caliber than a Christian Kirk.
You're right. Christian Kirk. I mean, Evan Ingram was like the team's leading receiver.
He's a tight end, and now he's gone.
And now he's with us.
We're
gonna make him happy.
Yeah.
But the Tyreek Hill thing is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And I want to roll right into this question because we got the season approaching. It's about to be that time where everybody's getting their invite to the fantasy football new league year. It's one of those moments in my life personally where I thank God that I'm alive for another year. I'm like, man, I'm so glad I get to, what's funny is when I think of my death, I think about the fact that I won't watch any more football.
Kyle is locked the fuck in on the NFL. I love it.
That's like what I think about. I'm like, well, I know that, and rest in peace to Bill, but I was thinking that, did he know that was his last Giants? Did he know that was his last Giants game? And it made me think about that. So I'm just grateful every single year that we get to do this. But whenever that draft comes, we're going to have players like Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill and these guys that have historically been top 5 picks for the last 3-4 years. And we're kind of seeing them in a new light, whether it's the injuries with Christian McCaffrey, which he had those concerns in Carolina, but he did so well in San Francisco that we kind of just forgot about that and just took him number 1 overall last year. For a lot of people, it was a brutal reminder that he is injury prone. So with Tyreek Hill and this trade thing going on, is he going to be with the Dolphins? What's his rapport going to be like? What's his role going to be? Is he going to sit out? Is there going to be behavioral issues? Do these things potentially slide these players? And the reward could be massive. If you're sitting in a 12-team league and you're the 12th pick and CMC's on the board and he brings you a 2023 season, I mean, you're going to be really happy. But what if the player that's picking number 4 doesn't let that happen? And those guys will maybe be considered a reach pick at that position. But should it be? And that's kind of what I wanted to ask you, like fantasy wise, like how do you view these guys, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill? I can't think of, I'll try to think of a couple more, but those are good too to start with going into this 2025 season.
I mean, CMC's not going to go number 1. Saquon's going number 1, like in fantasy drafts. I think I don't see any reason why he would go number 1. Can he still go top 5? I think so, because 1, you get rid of Debo, right? On the 49ers side. Ayuk, you're starting to get some questions about him, possible trades. Ricky Pearsall hasn't really proven anything. Yes, you still have George Kittle, but
he got shot.
He got like, let's give him some slack, right? He did get shot. You're right. But
He
CMC
hasn't
becomes
really proven anything.
yeah, other than being able to recover from a gunshot wound, weak. He hasn't really done much. But I could do that in my fucking sleep, dude. Oh no. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That was great.
But yeah, man, like I think CMC could be one of those top 5 players taken in a PPR league because you got Ayuk, you got Kittle, and you got CMC. You've got some guys behind there that you can sprinkle in for Purdy who just got paid. But I think CMC is going to be like, hey, man, we're going to count on you. Yes, he's injury prone, is what it is, but he's going to get catches. He's going to get yards. He's going to get touchdowns. So is he going to be the first running back taken off the board? Absolutely not. It's going to be Saquon. Might even be Derrick Henry number 2, depending on what happens during this offseason in terms of running backs. But I know CMC is probably still going to be top 5. Now, Tyreek Hill, that's a little muddier because can he be taken top 10? Yeah. Can he be taken second round fantasy? Also, yes, because I think he still went for 1,000 yards last year, if I'm not mistaken. But do you really trust?
I don't think so. Did he?
Let me double check. Yeah, I'm gonna check his stats. 2024. Ooh, he was 41 yards away from 1,000.
Okay.
So the year prior, 13 touchdowns, 1,800 yards, and then last year, 959 yards, 6 touchdowns. So I think
slide.
What's that?
A big slide, but there's some injuries, and most importantly, he lost Tua. And
exactly.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was gonna say Tua is also a big factor in that. Because who gets the ball to the wide receiver? It's the quarterback. So another wrinkle in where will Tyreek Hill be taken. You got Jalen Waddle there. The Dolphins are starting to not really look like a playoff caliber type of team, especially with the Bills being as good as they are. What a lot of people expect out of the Patriots. I mean, I think it's easy to say that the Dolphins are going to be bottom feeders, at least in the AFC East, along with the Jets, in terms of winning games. And I don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to be one of those guys who's like, well, somebody's got to step up. I'll do it and just get another 1,800 yard double-digit touchdown type of season. I just don't see it. So he's a second-round guy
to me, and I feel like this isn't a debate show, but this is twice now where I'm seeing one of the things that drives me the most crazy about sports is recency bias. And it's like it happens with coaches. Like, let's say that Ben Johnson goes out there and he gives the Bears as a franchise a real identity and they make real improvements, but the Bears win 8 games. There's going to be people saying to fire that coach. I went back today and watched the highlights of a game that we played in it was Russell Wilson's second game, and the fans were counting down our game clock on the highlight reel. It was a 12-minute clip of the game, and I could hear it. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah.
And it reminded me how far we've come. And I realized since we've had Bo Nix, that hasn't happened one time.
No.
Not one time have we even, I don't even remember a delay of game penalty, period. And this was like our normal life. And Sean came in, and that's what he inherited. And I'm thinking to myself, after we let Russell Wilson go, everybody was saying fire Sean Payton. And here we are a year later. And it's like, could this team make a deep run in the playoffs? Most people have Denver in their top 10, especially top 10 most complete teams. People are very bullish on Bo Nix. I think they should be. The defense is considered the best in the NFL from most people. And this is 1 year from people saying to fire that head coach.
Yeah.
And it's just like the fans, man, you give them an 1,800-yard season. Tyreek Hill was chasing down a record that's been standing still in the record books for 2 decades with Calvin Johnson, his receiving record. And there was a kindergarten teacher that was teaching math that was like, okay, so Tyreek Hill has this many yards to go.
I remember that.
Remember, it was like all of the buzz everywhere. Tyreek Hill was considered unanimously the best wide receiver in the NFL, and his quarterback gets hurt. Not a shocker, right? His quarterback gets hurt, misses the entire season basically, and Tyreek Hill has no season because this quarterback wasn't even targeting him. And people are like, I don't know, is he even good?
I'm going to say here, because I totally understand where you're coming from, but you also get people who say Justin Fields in year 3 under Eberflus is going to have an MVP season. Do you remember when people said that prior to Justin Fields? So I get the whole recency bias thing and how you don't like it, but I also fucking hate when people are like, Justin Fields is going to have an MVP season. And it's like, yeah, he's got DJ Moore. And don't get me wrong. I was behind that. I was like, hey, Justin Fields, maybe MVP, right? But then it doesn't happen because people look at, like you're saying with the recency bias, they're looking at a singular thing and they're really not looking at the entire piece of pie, the entire pie, right? They're looking at a slice and being like, this guy's got the tools, but the coaching was not there. The jump in terms of his development was not there, right? What happened with
proven it yet?
Exactly. And but a lot of people are like, he's going to take that jump. He's going to take that jump. What are they saying about the Bears now? 3 years in a row, off-season champions, right? Like, until the Bears prove it, those jokes aren't going to go away. So I totally understand the recency bias, but I also don't love these like hot takes about MVPs, about the next step, about he's the best. Like, over like the history, there's hot takes and then there's recency bias, and they're both right at the end of the day. Do they go 50-50? Probably a lot less in terms of hitting. But at this point, we have to have a take at the end of the day, regardless if it's recency bias or if it's a hot take in terms of that. But I know where you're coming from. I just got to go off what I've seen to say something like that,
I know. I think that's fair. I just think, like you said, we got to look at the whole pie. Mm-hmm. Is the play caller still there? McDaniels, check.
Yeah.
Is the quarterback still on the team in Tua? Check. Do they have Jalen Waddle still? Check. Do they got the tight end that is making good strides? What's his name again? That tight end, that Juwan.
Oh my God.
Juwan, it's somebody Wilson? That we're not going to remember. He was like Jonnu Smith.
Oh, Jonnu Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they still have all those pieces. They still got my favorite running back of 2 years ago, Devon Achane. And I just see this team, and I feel like only 1 year went by where, of course, they lost their starting quarterback. Everything fell apart. It sucks. Mm-hmm. I get all that. But to say that the Dolphins are now bottom feeders with the Jets.
In the AFCs. Simply in the AFCs.
But even that, I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong about it. I'm just saying you're a lot more certain than I am because I know what the team's capable of in the regular season.
I get it. Yeah.
I don't have any faith that they're going to go on a deep playoff run. None of that. Mm-hmm. But do I think that if they come out hot and they're 4-0, that it's going to be shocking? No, they did it 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, we already know that they're capable of that. The question is, can they kind of pick up the pieces and remind us what they're capable of after what they did last season?
Yeah.
But it wasn't like Tua did that. The absence of Tua did that. So I'm kind of waiting to see on that front. But if Tyreek Hill came out and had that type of a season, I mean, that would be a great. And here's the other thing, and we can move off this, but the Tyreek Hill domino really affects, I could tell you, at least 6 people. It affects Tua Tagovailoa's draft stock, because if Tua loses Tyreek, he's not getting drafted to anybody's starting lineup.
Yeah.
It also, let's say he got traded to the Chiefs. Now Patrick Mahomes is definitely a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and he's not right now. It affects Xavier Worthy. It also affects Jalen Waddle, because now Jalen Waddle's stock is up. And it also affects a plethora of other people that I won't get into, but it's just one person getting moved to the right place changes everything. If Tyreek Hill got traded to the Chiefs and it was a reunion with Mahomes, and you saw videos of him, running a 4.3 and just looking like his normal self.
Yeah.
Or him, or
you're hyped.
Mahomes throwing a bomb in the backyard.
You're hyped.
Tyreek Hill, and you're like, oh shit, that's what. All of a sudden, things start to change with how we view Tyreek Hill. That's all I'm saying. But it is weird, because I think the biggest question mark of all is not even whether Tyreek Hill can play like what we've been talking about. I think the biggest question mark is how he feels about his teammates and how he feels about the team, and whether he's committed. That's what I think the big question mark is. And I think as long as that's a question mark, I don't want anything to do with him. I'm not interested in drafting players on my team that I don't even know if they're committed to playing for that team. I feel like it's like what is it, Shark Tank? And for that reason, I'm out.
I'm out. Hey, you heard what he said at the end of the season. He's like, I don't know, I got some decisions to make. I got to talk to my agent. That's the last thing you want to hear from your number one wide receiver. So I'm totally on board with everything you're saying. It affects Tyreek Hill's attitude, and how he approaches the season affects a plethora of people. I mean, it affects McDaniel. It affects Tua. It affects Jalen Waddle. It affects the offense as a whole. It affects where the Dolphins can land in the division as well.
And as we're talking fantasy, I want to dive real quick into the rookie running back watch, because this class is stacked with running backs like last year was stacked with quarterbacks, and the year before was stacked with receivers. Every year has their specialty, and it was running backs this year. You got Amari and Hampton, who is probably going to make big waves with Jim Harbaugh. And then, of course, the whole thing leads off with Ashton Genty going to the Raiders.
Yep.
I mean, their roles could disrupt veteran fantasy value. You already saw J.K. Dobbins get traded to the Broncos, and that all happened because of the Amari and Hampton draft pick by the Chargers. And, dude, the thing is J.K. Dobbins was like had 1,000 yards or almost cracked 1,000 yards. He was averaging 6 yards per carry. Like he's an injury concern, and he's been that way his whole career. But the other thing he's been his whole career is good when he's on the field. Like his numbers, yards per carry, averages over 5 yards a carry for his career. Like that's pretty fucking good, like
Yeah.
And the Chargers were like, we would rather get somebody younger that doesn't have all the injuries. And they go with Amari and Hampton. And I was like, well, there goes my Najee Harris rant about how good Najee Harris was. Because I really felt like Jim Harbaugh didn't just come in as a run-focused head coach. Now, he drafted, selected, handpicked all of his coaches and coordinators based on this run-first physical mentality, run-first philosophy. This is Jim Harbaugh all the way. So whatever running back they brought in, I felt like they were going to be successful. And we saw that
off the
last
rip,
year. Gus Edwards was successful. J.K. Dobbins was successful. Now a former first-round draft pick in Najee Harris comes. They let those two go. And I'm thinking, Najee Harris is going to break out, but then they draft Amari and Hampton. How do you look at these rookie running backs and where they kind of stand on the fantasy value chart? Like, are these second round draft picks? Are these fifth round draft picks? Like these top guys? Because I'm hearing also RJ Harvey to Denver. I'm hearing a lot of people say, like, not even me, they're more bullish than I am on RJ Harvey. Like, I like RJ Harvey. I feel like he could be very Bucky Irving-ish this year, but I like that. I still need to see it. And these guys already have him like in their top 10 sleeper picks, RJ Harvey in Denver. So what do you make of these rookie running backs in fantasy?
So I want to talk about RJ Harvey first, because we've seen the struggles that the Broncos have had with running backs, and like Javonte Williams was like, his rookie year was like, this guy's breaking tackles, this guy's scoring touchdowns, this guy's getting free, right? We've got a running back. What happens? Injury, and then it just like falls apart. Now you still have Estime there, which, you know, that's someone that you're high on, but RJ Harvey, I think, is going to have a lot more success. He's a little bit on the smaller side. If I read correctly, he's about 5'8", 205 pounds, but he's fast. He gets the most, I think, 10 plus yards, 23% of his carries in college. Like, he's still a fast guy and can get past dudes. And with the offensive line that Denver has, that's just going to be even better. Now, in terms of fantasy, where I think he's going to get picked, I think later rounds. I think right now there's, when we're looking at this, you know, depending on the strategy you got, you're going to go top tier running back first. You're going to go quarterback. You're going to go wide receiver first. RJ Harvey is going to fall maybe 7th round, 6th round, something like that, in the later rounds for sure. But if you're asking, like, who do I think out of these rookie running backs is going to be going first round, borderline second round, I think the clear answer is Ashton Jeanty. We saw what the Raiders lacked last year, and that was a running back. It was very clear. It was very obvious. Once you got rid of Jacobs, who did the Raiders have? No one. They had Gardner Minshew, probably the leading rusher. Alex Madison, I think, was there for a little bit. Either way, like, it was not a good year for the running game for the Raiders. So I think Ashton Jeanty is going to get a lot of carries, and he's going to be a part of the offense very, very quickly. And especially with oh my God, Pete Carroll there. You got Geno Smith, who's a bit of an aging quarterback, but you know, that stuff. I think they're going to go. I think the running game is going to be, I think they're going to go a lot heavier on the run with the Ashton Jeanty that they hope they got from college. Omarion Hampton, mid-round as well. I think Ashton Jeanty, in my opinion, is the only running back that can go first or second round in fantasy. I like Omarion Hampton and everything you said about him with Jim Harbaugh and the running game and how he's run first, him and Greg Roman and that offensive scheme. I like it. But again, Ashton Jeanty is probably the clear guy to go first there, because all these other guys, Quinshon Judkins from the Cleveland Browns, I don't think the Cleveland Browns, even though they lost, oh my God,
Nick
Chubb. Yes, thank you. I don't know if they're going to go really run heavy as much as they're going to try to figure out who the quarterback is. And they have the former Broncos receiver, what's his name?
Jerry Jeudy,
who had a really good year last year. I think they're still kind of trying to find out what they're doing there. I just don't think that Quinshon Judkins is going to have as good a season as Omarion Hampton and Ashton Jeanty in terms of running backs. And honestly, that's about it. Because even you look at Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh, I mean, you've still got Warren there, who
he's the RB1.
He's RB1. And you had Steelers fans. We say it. Everyone else says it. Like, why isn't Warren getting more carries than Najee? Yes, Najee had a decent year last year, and it seemed like, oh shit, is Najee back? Clearly, the Steelers didn't think so, because he's now in LA. But I don't think Caleb Johnson is going to get as many touches as Warren is going to get. Now, everybody else, maybe Travion Henderson in the Patriots, he might be someone who gets a higher workload. But in terms of fantasy rounds, Ashton Genty is going to go first or second round, in my opinion, and everyone else is going to go mid to late rounds in terms of rookie running backs.
Yeah, and like if you're drafting in a league, like I always say to let recency bias, like let it play in your favor. One example of that is Ramondre Stevenson. We know that the Patriots had like almost the worst offensive line last year. I mean, it was like as soon as he got the ball, everybody was in his face. It's like you can't. Ramondre wasn't going to have a good season last year.
Yeah, the Bears' offensive line said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said almost. But like, look, that's a fundamental part of football. Like, if you're drafting a running back, do your due diligence and look up the offensive line. And if they are on the bottom half of the league, understand that running back is probably going to follow suit. This isn't like it is very rare that a running back has a monster fantasy year and then the offensive line's mediocre. That just doesn't happen.
No, not at all.
But we saw
unless they really suck. Unless the
running back's just really good.
Yeah.
And if you look at Ramondre Stevenson 2 years ago, like he was poised for a massive season, and dude, he's a baller. But last year, the offensive line thing happened. This year, Ramondre is not going as high. That's somebody you might want to put in your pocket. And like, let those type of values, those are high value picks if Ramondre gets back to where he was at when they gave him the extended contract, because we all saw him ball out 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at another just talking point here, we got some players under pressure this year. I want to start off with Trevor Lawrence because we had mentioned him earlier when we were talking about Tyreek Hill. Trevor Lawrence, I feel like he was one of those perfect prospects coming out of college. We don't get those very often. The Andrew Lucks, the John Elways. This was the way it was with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he was the perfect quarterback. All the scores were high, the prototype body, the arm strength, everything was there to the point where they had to make up a false narrative just to try to put a little gossip into the number 1 overall pick, saying, does he love football? He said that he could be happy without football. So does that mean he doesn't love football? Like, you got a perfect prospect when that's the bullshit you're talking about the weeks leading up to the draft. And yeah, he got drafted there and he had some struggles, but in year 2, the Jaguars are in the playoffs and Trevor Lawrence looked good. Like, he's making NFL, like there was no doubt that he belonged there. There was not any question to whether Trevor Lawrence belonged on the NFL field. It was more like he had a shitty game, not so much that he was incapable of the job. And after that playoff, Doug Peterson gets fired, and they're kind of doing a reload here. And for the way I look at this, I thought the best head coach in this cycle was always I just blanked his name, and
Liam Cohen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Boo this man.
Right when I said, "Are you blanking his name?" Then I asked myself, and that inner dialogue wasn't helping me remember. Liam Cohen, but you guys know how high I've been on Liam Cohen. Like
Duval.
No, not that. But dude, Liam Cohen to me is, you look at the success he had with the Rams, the guy he came under in Sean McVay, and then what he was able to do with Baker Mayfield in Tampa. And I'm like, this is the guy, man, because I understand that stability, success. But when you see a coach moving laterally, having success, another guy that is in this situation is Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was having success in Dallas, and then he went to the Chargers.
Yep.
Justin Herbert got hurt, and they restructured everything. It wasn't his fault. Then he went to Philadelphia after they lost their offensive coordinator to the Indianapolis Colts, and then were one and done in the playoffs. They bring Kellen Moore in and win a Super Bowl. And I'm seeing lateral success, and I'm saying, hey, that's a guy we should be talking about more. Boom, he's the Saints head coach. This is another one of those guys where I'm watching him move, and I'm like, man, this is a guy that knows what he's doing, and his philosophy works everywhere he goes. Now you're kicking out the old Doug Peterson, who his best days are behind, and you're bringing in a new innovative coach, which is the direction the league's heading. You draft Travis Hunter. You're building on Brian Thomas Jr., who I think is going to be a really good wide receiver for a long time in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this Jaguars team, and I'm seeing their best season probably yet under Trevor Lawrence. But I would say with all of that Trevor Lawrence is under some of the most pressure this year. Because if he doesn't succeed this year, then the bust conversations begin. And that's the thing about being drafted number 1 overall, is the expectations are that you were going to be a Peyton Manning type quarterback in the NFL. You're not allowed to be a Kirk Cousins if you're drafted number 1 overall. Like it or not, if you're drafted number 1 overall, you're either Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, or you're a bust. There is no room for Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold at number 1 overall. So this is a monster season for Trevor Lawrence. And I know you probably look at it the same.
Yeah, I do kind of look at it. And real quick, I want to shout out Jinja, Nick, E-Dub, and Daniel Barry. They're in the chat, so I want to make sure to shout these guys out. We got the chat right here next to me. Trevor Lawrence, I totally agree. He is getting into that, and he signed a contract already. He had a borderline MVP season. He made the playoffs, came back huge against who was it, the Chargers, right? In 2022 or whatever it was in that playoff game. The Jaguars are tied to this guy, similar to how the Bears are going to be tied to Ben Johnson for 5 years, good or bad. Point blank, period. The Jaguars are going to have Trevor Lawrence for the remainder of his contract. It's too much money, in my opinion, and too much hype around what Lawrence has done in his time in Jacksonville and even before that at Clemson, where the Jaguars just can't cut loose like you can cut loose with Kirk Cousins. If you're the Falcons, you just can't do it. It's a much different situation. But I totally agree. Now, the thing is, I know you're saying Liam Cohen and you believe in this guy. This is one of those things where in my head, it's one of those like hot takes where Liam Cohen is going to get the best out of Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., while a very, very good wide receiver in his rookie year. Who knows how he does the second year, right? Like we still sort of a hot take because really I feel like a majority of people are thinking Ben Johnson is going to be the more successful first-year head coach. I fucking hope so. But I think it's more of a hot take saying, hey, Liam Cohen is the best one. But Trevor Lawrence has a lot to prove this year. He had already signed his deal. He's got a playmaker in Brian Thomas Jr. They bring in another playmaker in Travis Hunter. They get rid of Ingram. They get rid of Christian Kirk. They're like, you know what? Evan Ingram, thank you, but we're moving in a different direction. Liam Cohen, Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. We got to get these guys. The offensive line is still a work in progress for the Jaguars. That is going to be a big reason as to how Trevor Lawrence does. Trevor Lawrence also does not stay on the field over the last couple of years. Pretty like he's played hurt and he's been out of games. Also, since entering the league, he has turned the ball over the most amount of times. There are a lot of things that Trevor Lawrence has to work with, but luckily for him, he's finally got a guy who's had success with guys like Baker, with guys like Stafford, vets in the NFL who have had this guy Liam Cohen as a coordinator. You know, maybe I hope for Trevor Lawrence's sake and the future of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen is one of those guys who could come in and be like, dude, you're going to be an MVP like you borderline were in 2022, and this is how we're going to get there. So, you know, for their sake, I hope it does work out. For the sake of me not necessarily thinking that Trevor Lawrence is this amazing quarterback, or he's going to be an amazing quarterback in the NFL, I hope it doesn't work out. I hope it doesn't work out. I'm not going to lie. Like, the whole Duval thing was lame. Trevor Lawrence just lets go of the ball. He turns it over. But the thing is, Jacksonville and the brain trust there with the GM and the owner are moving in the right direction with the decisions that they have made, both in the draft and in terms of coaching. They just need to figure out the fucking offensive line at this point.
Well, the Jaguars did kind of go through significant changes and improvements for their offensive line. And that was left tackle Walker Little is expected to compete for the starting spot. Potential competition from Fred Johnson. At right tackle, they bring in, or returning, is Anton Harris. And I don't know any of these guys, by the way.
Me neither. I've never heard one single name.
Not that I'm like, I know every offensive lineman.
Yeah, but you know some offensive linemen, you know, and you know some offensive lines as a whole that are good. It's just Jacksonville never comes up.
Know them until it's like they're a free agent and they're the number one free agent. And I'm like, oh, that guy's a really good tackle. Okay.
Trey Smith.
Yeah.
Tooney.
Right.
Jackson. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, these guys are good. Mm-hmm. I saw their value on the free agent board. Anton Harris.
Stephen A. Smith told me he was good.
Ezra Cleveland was re-signed. So there's going to be competition for left guard. At center, Mitch Morse was signed to compete with Luke Fortner. At right guard, it's a returnee in Brandon Scherf. And then other notable players, Tyler Shatley, Javon Foster, and the offensive line is coached by Phil Rusher. I say all this to not say that their offensive line is improved, but that they have brought in the necessary players.
They've tried,
build that competition. Yeah, they didn't stay stagnant with the offensive line. Mm-hmm. They went after multiple offensive linemen through the draft and free agency, and where there was players that were deemed good, they brought in competition even under those positions. So the hopes is that there's going to be a healthier, better offensive line than there was in 2024. And that was the major concern going into this season, because it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is if the offensive line sucks. It just it's always going to be that way. So every good head coach is going to fix the offense. You know, when Sean came to Denver, all of his first moves were all offensive linemen. Jim Harbaugh was the same thing. It was like, we're going to spend some money. Ben Powers, who's the Ben Powers? Mike McGlinchey. Who are these people?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a whole new offensive line. Ben Powers. So that's the way a good head coach does it. You got to build the foundation before you get the sports car. And the Jaguars, it looks like they have a coach that understands that process.
My favorite saying that you have said that sticks with me is, you've got to make dinner before you invite people over.
Yeah, before you invite the company.
Before you invite the company, you got to have dinner ready, or you know, something like that. It's got to be cooking at least. You got to set that foundation, like you're saying, and then bring the people over, because and that's true. And credit to the Jaguars, similar to the Bears, similar to other teams who are improving areas of weakness. They're bringing in guys for competition. Who knows how it's going to go, but at least they're trying to keep their quarterback upright and trying to make him the best version of himself for 2025.
I like it. And all right, we're going to cap all this off with some bold takes. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first one I want to give you, the Eagles breaking the NFC East curse. And just to remind
Yeah.
you guys, no team in 3 years. Wait, no, not 3. No team in 7 years has repeated as NFC East. No, not 7. Wait, I said 3, 7. Oh, you multiply 7 times 3. No team in 21 years has repeated as NFC East champions. How is that possible that
Yeah.
21 years has gone
Mhm.
by and no
Mhm.
team has repeated? At that point, I will call it a curse. Yes, that is curse criteria. Why the hell has no team repeated the NFC curse in 21 years? Could Philly be the first team to do it, Rick?
Yeah, I think so. I like what the Commanders are doing. I like that they bring in Debo. I like that they went to the NFC Championship against their division rival, the Eagles. But at the end of the day, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They still have Saquon Barkley. A lot of their defense is still very much intact. Like Howie Roseman is this like mixture of brilliant and looks to the future to make sure that his team can stay competitive without breaking the bank. Like this guy is like 6 moves ahead of where a lot of franchises are right now, right? A lot of people are trying to stay above water. The Saints come to mind, right? The Saints are definitely one of those. But Howie Roseman just won a Super Bowl, has been in the playoffs consistently over the last decade, I would say, if not more. So yeah, do I like what the Washington Commanders are doing? Absolutely. Do I like do I think the Cowboys still have a shot? I still think they have a shot. The Giants kind of getting up there. They still have plenty of things to do right in order to actually be in contention. But the Eagles are, in my mind right now, the clear-cut favorites for the NFC East and the clear-cut favorite for the NFC East for years to come, honestly.
Yeah, and I'm going to say no. It's going to go to 22 years because
Wow.
I think that we're going to be asking this question next year, but the Commanders will be the team that we are asking.
Wow.
And it's definitely not the safest thing to say because we've seen, the CJ Strouds, and I've been wrong in the past where I'm like, they're a Super Bowl team. You know, I was just reminded too because I was watching the Broncos Texans game. Like I said, they were counting down the play clock. And I was like, this wasn't even the game I was trying to see. I was trying to see the 2024 or 2023 Broncos Texans game. So I got to the right game, and CJ Stroud was the quarterback. It was his rookie season, and the Texans were 6-5.
Mhm.
And I was thinking to myself, hey, Bo Nix and the Broncos were at one point like 6-4 and then 7-5. And I remember everyone being so much more hyped about the way CJ Stroud did it than
Mhm.
that. But then I was like, but
Like you.
Jaden Daniels was going on at the same time. And I realized that we've had like nothing comes close to what we've witnessed the last 2 years. Like the amount of quarterbacks that have come in as rookies and just
Mhm.
hit the road running, this is not normal. We've had 3 quarterbacks that had way more success than we're just not used to that. We don't see that. Like you're either sitting behind a starter for 3-4 years and then you have a
Mhm.
really good season like Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers, or you come in right away and like Peyton Manning, you finish like 3-13 and lead the NFL in interceptions, a record that hasn't been broken.
Mhm.
But or Tom Brady, like again, sat behind, the winemaker,
Oh,
Drew Bledsoe,
Drew Bledsoe, yeah.
and and now all of a sudden we got Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, these guys coming into the league and taking their team to the playoffs in their rookie season. And I'm trying to be careful about just immediately putting that success on the next year, because I did that with CJ Stroud in
Yeah.
2024,
Yeah.
where I was like, well, I'm not worried about a sophomore slump because CJ's already proven that he's different than these other quarterbacks that we would typically talk about a sophomore slump. He's not like them, but yet things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Offensive lines regress, players
Mm-hmm.
get hurt, coaches change. So as much as I don't want to say like I'm going Commanders because of what happened last year, I'm going Commanders because of what happened last year, because they added Debo Samuel. And it's like, I feel like I am living through Groundhog Day when CJ Stroud added Stephon Diggs. And like,
Yeah.
I get all of that, but at the same time, I would rather be wrong twice than go against my gut. And my gut is telling me that the Commanders are going to win that division, and they're going
Wow.
to be one of the best teams in the NFC, and they probably find their way back to the NFC Championship. That's where my gut's saying.
I love it. And Ginger's saying Giants taking that division, son, for Bill.
I would
For
love
Bill.
that.
I would love that too. Like that would be literal cinema. I would fucking love that. So Ginger, I kind of hope we're wrong. There we go. There it is. There it is right there. There it is right there. That's who's taking it. They're bringing the truck. They're unloading the NFC East Division crown in 2025.
I love that.
Kyle. For the motherfucker.
For the motherfucking.
For the motherfucker.
For the motherfucking. Welcome to the Chives with Kyle.
Woo!
Does my room look green?
It does. It looks like a big old chive in there.
Hell yeah. All right. So I saw a comment up here by Ginger, and I wanted to bring it up because, as you probably saw, Shedeur Sanders was pulled over, allegedly going 101 miles an hour. Allegedly. I say allegedly because there was no proof. And I don't
hearsay.
know.
It's hearsay.
I mean, without proof, it's bullshit. I'm just saying, like, cops do this all the time. My aunt and my uncle's like, he was in the Crips. Like he's tatted his neck, his head, like, but he's like the most soft. He's got a tiny Yorkie Pomeranian puppy. Like, it's so funny. I think I told that story about the lady at the dog park when the pit bull was running loose, and she said, "Hey, control your dog," and he's like, "That's not my dog. This is my dog." And she just assumed that was his dog.
I love it.
So yeah, my uncle used to get pulled over all the time because my aunt's a court reporter, typewriter, stenographer, and they do pretty well. And they bought like a brand new Jaguar, and they would get pulled over all the time just because there's a tatted guy in a Jaguar, and it's like, we can't confirm that. It's just they weren't pulled over like ever until that.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
So I think sometimes people that drive nicer vehicles get pulled over because cops get nosy and they want to know, like, who's in that car? How'd they afford that? The questions that we think without power, that we can't pull someone over for having a question, but they can.
True.
And like, they'll say things like, well, I had to go 80 to catch up to you. Like, well, that's not how it works. Like, that doesn't mean I was going 90. That just means that the distance between us, you could have gone 100 to catch up to me. You could go any speed you want to catch up to me. You just couldn't go slower than me. So that's like the most stupid thing. But anyway, we'll just go with it. Let's say he was going 100 miles an hour. He gets pulled over, and Ginger was saying, like, all I needed to see was that video. To Ginger, he came across as entitled, which was funny because, like, the video I saw, all the comments were saying the same thing. Like, that's all I needed to see. But they were saying it in a positive way. Like, you can tell this young man was raised by, the right people, like good
Yeah.
father,
Oh yeah.
and then I saw Ginger's comment, and I'm like, I guess I didn't watch two videos because, depending on who posted the video, the
Mm-hmm.
comments can tell a whole different story. The only
True.
one I saw was everybody being like, you can tell he comes from a good family. And then I saw Ginger's comment, and I was like, maybe there is a whole nother story side to this that I'm not even aware of. And then I'm asking you, because we haven't talked about this until now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you see the video, the cop body cam?
I actually didn't, and I didn't know that there was actually a video. I just knew that he had gotten pulled over for going again allegedly over 100 miles per hour, and this was like his second time doing it. So I didn't see the video.
It was his second time.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently, it's like multiple times. I don't know if it's 2 or more than 2.
It's like, dude, you can't speed here. Stop.
It's a school zone.
Man, they don't like me. No, okay. So I think what rubbed people the wrong way is that when he got pulled over towards the end, he gave him something, and he never said what it was, but you can hear the cop go, "Oh, you should have given this to me before I gave you the ticket." Now, I did some investigating, and he said the last name, and that last name is a retired police chief that is now over the Cleveland Browns. And he probably gives his card to all of his players in doc, saying, hey, if you get pulled over, give this to the cop. And Shedeur Sanders did that, but he did it at the end of the ticket. And the cop's like, you should have given to me this before.
Yeah.
I think that's what people might be mad about, but I don't know. Maybe Ginger could put it in the
So they're mad about the fact that they have basically a get out of a ticket free card, in a sense. But I'm assuming the positive comments are like, look at him. He waited until the end, and he kind of took it like a man. And he is also, because there's also a video on X I just saw that he's like, hey, I can own up to my mistakes. Shedeur Sanders saying that. So right. I'm assuming that's where the positive comments are coming from.
Didn't fight it.
Yeah, and because he was talking Tyreek. That's right, Ginger. You're right. That comment was for Tyreek. But I also think that Deion Sanders, because of the positive comments in terms of like, being raised by the right people, Deion was like a menace, and I say that in air quotes, in terms of, being outspoken, wanting to play this, wanting to play baseball, talking to teams and being like, what pick are you? 12? I'm not even going to be on the board while you pick. So I have no questions to answer, is one of the things he was saying, right, while he was getting drafted. So this is Deion being like, look, man, this is the NFL. You're going to get drafted. This is what you have to do. This is how you have to. And this is all through his childhood. This is through high school. This is through college, which leads all up to now. So I'm assuming that's where the positive comments are coming from, but also the angry comments are being like, oh, a get out of ticket free card. Why can't regular people do that? Because so I get both sides.
I'll tell you why regular people can't do it. It's easy. Because the media doesn't talk about regular people all the time.
That's right.
Like, it's not that crazy to understand. Like, leading up to the draft, if you just mentioned Shedeur Sanders' name, that video was going to get millions of views. That cop that pulled him over probably got the license and went, holy shit. I just pulled over Shedeur Sanders. You know who they're not doing that for? Kyle Kitzman. That's why.
I still think you can get angry about it. It doesn't make sense that if you're in that same situation, would you be like,
get angry about?
I get it, sure, but you could still be angry about it. At least I can't. I will.
I don't condone getting angry about it, because I feel like if you were that good at something, that you were in his position, like, why would you not use the card? Okay, I'll just say it. My best friend growing up, his name was PJ. His father was a lieutenant for Jacksonville Police Department, and he's worked his way up, and now he's the sheriff over Orlando, which is a major county. And anytime I got in trouble, I could just be like, I'm friends with Evander Collier. And what's cool is like his son and him have the same name. And I'm not saying I abused it. There was some times where like I was just caught up in the wrong crowd, but it wasn't necessarily my doing. I was just in the back seat. And not even a situation I wanted to be in. Sometimes you just get pulled into a car.
Kyle took out his car. Is like, call this guy, let him know who I am.
I didn't even have a card. I just said his name. But it's like, I mean, that's just like the human nature is like, if you're in trouble, like you want to get out of it, and it's like, just because now the cops are wearing these cameras and it's getting blasted to the millions, it's like, this has always, gone on. And if you had that card in your pocket, you would use it too. That's the only thing I'll say. If you're going to get angry about it, then you can't use that card if you had it. That's what I'll say.
And personally, it depends on what it is, but I would probably use it too. There are just some perks you get for certain things, right? And if you use them, you use them. But
you have to take me to jail. I will not accept this special. No, I'm going to jail instead of enjoying the rest of my night.
But in that same sense, I still think a regular person like you or I can be like, what the fuck? When I get pulled over, I still get a ticket, right? But Shedeur Sanders goes literal reckless driving, which is I think 10 or 15 miles over the speed limit, and gets off with like, dude, what the fuck? Why didn't you tell me this before? And then I would have let you go. I would have let you go with a little, don't do that again. You know what I mean?
Well, the fact that he's done it twice changes everything for me. So
exactly. I would do what Casey's saying too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I didn't know that he had already been pulled over for speeding. Like to me, like, all right, that's just inexcusable. Cause then now you're not learning from your mistakes. Like I remember I had this friend named Colton, and we were drinking beers at like 14. And I remember I'm like, my dad will beat my ass if he ever found out. Like, even though I had my first drink with him, I knew that like it was not acceptable to do it outside the house, like in the manner I was doing it.
Yeah.
And I was outside and I had my beer, and all of a sudden I see this light, and it's like, I see somebody, it's a car, and he's staring at us. I didn't know it was a cop car. We get on our bikes and we're going behind this Winn-Dixie. And all of a sudden, the cop turns his lights on, and I'm panicking, heart beating on my chest. I take my beer and I go to stuff it in my pants. The cop gets out of the car, draws his gun, and says, "Drop your weapon," because he thought I was reaching for a piece. And I dropped the beer can. And the cop comes over and he's like, "Put your fucking hands behind your back," cursing at me.
Yeah.
And I put my hands behind my back. I swear to God, there was a church right there next to the Winn-Dixie. And I'm like, God, if you get me out of this for all in eternity, I will serve you. It just like, because I knew like I was, my dad was like rough with me. I was like, this is bad news for me. And right when I finished saying that in my head, the cop's radio goes, "We got a 2319. We got," and the cop looks at me, and I won't even censor myself. I'm just for the reality of it. He went, "It's your lucky fucking night," and he uncuffs and then speeds off 100 miles an hour.
Wow!
And I'm like shaking. And my friend Colton picks the beer up from the ground. And I remember thinking, I will never be friends with you ever again. It wasn't because of the shenanigans we got into. It was because you picked up the beer bottle. And that's the difference between people. That is like, you got pulled over for this already in the span of what, a month? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to do it once and like, drop the beer bottle. It's another thing to pick it up.
And that's, and see, like that right there is one of those things where you're almost grateful to be caught regardless of what happens after, because you're like, I'm not doing that again. Because
Yeah.
quick story, on the way back, my wife and I were driving from here, Washington, back to Chicago. On the way back from Chicago, I'm going 80 down the highway. It's 70. I see a Charger behind me. Bam, lights come on. I pull over. My wife is in the back. No seatbelt. We have the back chairs down, and she's like laying down trying to sleep with our dog. Guy pulls me over. He's on the right side window, on passenger side window, and he's like, "Hey, do you know why I pulled you over?" I knew, but of course I'm not gonna, put myself in give myself away. I was like, "No, officer, what happened?" He's like, "You're going 10 miles over." He can clearly see my wife laying down, no seatbelt on, no type of safety, nothing, and my dog's barking, and I'm like, "Shut up." He can see that. He didn't say anything. He takes my license, runs it, comes back, slow down, don't do it again. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Leaves, and I look back, I'm like, I can't believe he didn't say shit about you not having a seatbelt, my wife. And then afterwards, I was going 75. I was only going 5 over the entire way, dude. So I got caught. I didn't go 10 over. I wasn't going 80. And I was grateful that he didn't give me a ticket for an unbuckled passenger in my car.
Dude. Like I feel like that's the major difference in people.
It
Like
100%.
because at some point we all get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do people do after is the main pivot point in your life.
It's what you do after you get, I mean, caught, I guess, in a sense, but it's once you realize what you did was wrong, it's what you do afterwards,
right?
That really, really matters. So yeah.
Well, man, I'm happy to be back with you guys. Had some family stuff going on I had to take care of, but man, it feels good to be back talking ball. What are we, like 50 days away from a football game?
I wish we were one day away. I love the summer. I love the summer, but God, I love football probably just as much, if not more. But we're the days are counting down. The days are counting down.
It's always funny, like the first day of not Thursday. I like the tradition, but the first real day of like Sunday football, like for some reason, every time it's like, it always feels when you go outside and you feel the weather change and you go, it's the first day of fall feeling. It's always that Sunday. It's
It
never
always
the
seems like
Thursday. It's the Sunday.
And since I've moved to the West Coast and football's on at 10 a.m., like the waking up, the making my coffee, the coming down, the watching the football in the morning with my coffee after, and like eating breakfast, whatever I have for breakfast. It's like, wow, this is nice.
Yeah. So many
mean?
storylines all at once. The only thing I wish, and this is a good question, like if you could pick right now that there would be like 3 football games every day of the week instead of like 14 or 15 on one day.
Yeah.
Would you do it that way?
No.
Yeah, you just like being blasted with storylines.
I love getting fucking absolutely throated with a bunch of football. Here's the thing, and again, I'm gonna make this really quick.
I'm gonna do a better job of censoring myself. I want to get throated.
I just want to get Eiffel Towered on Sunday by football after football
train.
I want a gag in my mouth.
Oh my goodness.
I just hate that football. I hate that the NFL is like, hey, let's do Friday. Hey, let's do a random Wednesday. Oh, by the way, we're doing 6 games at 3 a.m. Across the Atlantic. And I'm just like, come on, guys. Can we stick to the Monday, Thursday, Sunday? Please,
yeah.
please.
And it's on Peacock. What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and if you don't have Netflix, fuck you. You don't get to watch football.
That's why there's that new Jason Kelsey commercial for YouTube TV where it's like, all your sports are in one place. And it's like, stop lying. They're not. And that whole thing with him trying to sign in and he forgot his password and clicking on all the different apps, that is still us.
Yeah.
YouTube TV has not solved it. That will still be you come football season.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But yes, I still can't wait. I still can't wait. I saw that there was a post that said like it will cost the average NFL fan like $4,300 to watch every single game this year, and it's
Yeah.
including like all the memberships. And I'm like, okay, first off, the average fan's not watching every single game start to finish. The
Yeah.
average
It's
NFL
tough.
fan's watching their favorite football team plus every primetime game. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they're
Exactly.
also
Exactly.
not subbing to Peacock for one game. They're illegally pirating it. Like,
Or they're using their family member or friend's account
right,
to watch
right.
that game.
We're not all out here spending $4,000 on football. I get what you're trying
Exactly.
to say, and I approve of the message, but don't think average football fans spending $4,000 a year on this.
And I appreciate this comment by Ginger. I'll just watch the Colts and you guys, because yeah, we are lucky enough to be able to catch a lot of the games, do red zone, for example, do that stuff because of like people like Ginger who want to get updated on all the games, but only want to watch their team. Because if I were in Ginger's shoes, I would be like, yeah, I'm only watching Bears games and I'm watching a stream that keeps me updated on all the scores, because fuck paying $700 a month for the NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV and Hulu and Netflix and all that stuff. So yeah, exactly. So
wait, now I got to call DirecTV. They're like, we can't install an antenna on your condo downtown. It's like, but I want Sunday Ticket.
They're like, you go to a bar, dude. You're like, fuck you.
Then you go to the bar and you're like, do you guys have the Broncos game? They're like, no. And you're like, it's okay, I got it on my phone. And then you go to cast it, and it's like, casting is illegal. And you're like, wait, what? I can't cast? They're like, no.
or they go, it's blacked out. Sorry.
Yeah. As soon as you try to share it, no.
Yeah, I know that. And real quick, Ginger, Rick, I haven't seen you in forever. You handsome fuck. Thank you, Ginger. You are the hottest man alive. You and Kyle are right there, right neck and neck. How's the job going? It is going great. If you want to talk a little bit more, Ginger, hit the Only Football Pod, at Only Football Pod on X, and I will respond to any messages you send, because I no longer have an X account. But I just wanted to address this comment real quick, Ginger, because he's asking me about my new job. It is going awesome. I fucking love it. It is great. So thank you for asking. Yeah. No, it's been awesome, man. The cooking, I get back to it. I enjoy cooking now, and the place that I'm at, it is awesome. It is nowhere near as busy as it would be at a Red Lobster, so I enjoy that part. But we also make pretty good food, so that's the other part I enjoy. And the people I work with are cool as shit too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
all right, guys.
Important.
Exactly right. It's like the people you work with. It's like that can make or break something. Like the Navy for me. The Navy has always been the 3 Ps: the people, the places, and the pay. If one of those suck, you're gonna have a really bad time in the Navy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's like that episode of South Park where they go to Aspen. If you French fry when you're supposed to pizza, you're gonna have a bad time.
You're gonna have a bad time.
And he's like, puts the poop mustache on his. He's like, guys, I gave Butters a Hitler. And Kyle's like, what's a Hitler? You know, when you put your finger in your butt and you put a little Hitler mustache on their nose. You've never given anyone a Hitler? And he's like, no, I never have.
I can't say that I have.
Thank you, guys. Butters comes downstairs and he's like, it smells in this condo. And then the next scene, he's outside and he's like, it smells like doo-doo out here. I'm starting to think this whole place smells like doo-doo. And Cartman goes, yeah, that's why they call it Aspen.
You do the Butters voice so well. I love that about you. I fucking love that. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody who was here. Ginger, Nick, KC, Daniel Barry, E-Dub. Thank you guys so much for being in the chat. Again, I hope you guys enjoy this little chat that we have here on the side of the screen. I don't know if I can make it bigger. If I could, I would, but StreamYard has allowed us to finally get this thing going. So I hope you guys like it too. Appreciate all the comments, everything you guys do on X at Only Football Pod. and at NFL with Kyle. Hit us up, follow us, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on the stream. Follow us on Twitch as well. And again, on YouTube, on X. We would appreciate all the love. Look at those hearts Kyle just gave you guys. That's for y'all. That is for you guys. So thank you guys so much for being here. Long live Bill, Kyle. Long live Bill.
Long live Bill.
Long live Bill. And as always, brother, always a good time. Always a good time.
Always a good time.